Some buildings are just structures of concrete and steel. But others, well, others are conversations. Casa Batlló in Barcelona isn't just a stunning piece of architecture. It's a dialogue that's been going on for over a century. A conversation about art, nature, and what makes a city tick. So let's go inside and actually listen to what this incredible building has to say. First things first, we have to start with that facade. I mean, look at those balconies. Are they masks? Skulls? The bones of a dragon's victims? They're surreal, maybe a little unsettling, but they are absolutely beautiful. And right away, this is your first clue that you're about to enter a building that wasn't just meant to be looked at, but to be felt and interpreted. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by zooming way in on Gaudí's dreamlike vision. Then we'll listen in on a fascinating modern conversation with his work. After that, we'll zoom out to the street to see the wild rivalry this building sparked. And finally, we'll take that bird's eye view of what it means for the city today. Okay, let's dive into part one. To set the scene, just imagine this. You're a wealthy textile tycoon, and you basically give an architectural genius a blank check to turn your perfectly fine but kind of boring building into an unforgettable fantasy. This timeline really shows you how quickly everyone knew this building was something else. In 1904, Josep Italia just wanted something different. By 1906, Gaudí had created an absolute masterpiece that started winning awards literally the next year. And of course, it eventually became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This wasn't a slow burn. Its impact was immediate, and it has lasted for more than a century. Now, to really get Gaudí, you have to understand this idea, bionics. He wasn't just kind of inspired by nature, he studied it. He believes nature had already solved all the most complex design problems. He looked at biology, at rocks, at animals, and he took away one huge lesson. In nature, there are almost no straight lines. Everything flows. And you can see this idea everywhere. On the outside, just look at that roof. It looks exactly like the shimmering scales on a dragon's back, right? But the real magic, for me, happens inside. That central patio, wow. It's designed to feel like you're in an underwater grotto, with the tiles getting lighter and lighter as they go up, pulling your eyes towards the sky, just like you're rising to the surface. But that conversation Gaudí started with nature, it didn't just stop in 1906. Over a century later, another brilliant architect was invited to add his own voice to the building, creating a dialogue not just with the space, but with Gaudí himself. So what connects these two designers across 100 years? It's an obsession with light. Back in 1904, Gaudí used these gorgeous handcrafted ceramic tiles to catch the Mediterranean sun. Fast forward to 2021, and the Japanese architect Kengo Kuma uses modern tech, a curtain made of aluminum chains, to do the exact same thing, just in a totally new way. And you can see that conversation happening right here. On one side, you have Gaudí's organic, one-of-a-kind tiles. On the other, Kuma's sleek, almost digital-looking creation. It's such a powerful contrast. Kuma's shimmering mesh doesn't copy Gaudí. It pays tribute to him. It's an echo, not an imitation. And it's all about playing with light. And Kuma himself admitted how tough it was. He said, "It seems like a very difficult challenge." His whole goal wasn't to compete with Gaudí, but, in his words, to talk about the genius of light. That humility is so important. It shows this deep respect for the original, making sure the new part feels like a continuation of the story, not an interruption. Now, to really understand Casa Batlló, we need to pull the lens back a bit. This house wasn't built in a bubble. Oh no. It was a major shot fired in one of the fiercest architectural rivalries you'll ever see, and it all went down on a single city block. This part of the Grand Avenue Passeig de Gràcia got a nickname, the Block of Discord. It's a shout-out to the old Greek myth about the apple of discord, where a golden apple was tossed into a party for the most beautiful goddess, sparking a huge rivalry. Well, here, the goddesses were buildings. And here are the contenders, standing right next to each other. You have the super ornate, flowery Casa Leó Aimorera. Right next to it, the more rigid, Northern European-looking Casa Amatller. And then, bam! Gaudí comes along and completely flips the script with a building that looks less like a house and more like a living, breathing creature. So that historical showdown created an icon, but that kind of fame, well, it comes with a modern-day cost. What really happens when one city block becomes a must-see for the entire world? And this is where we get to the reality of the building's massive popularity and the incredible pressure that tourism puts not just on this neighborhood, but on all of Barcelona. Just look at this number. It is staggering. In the district where Casa Batlló is, there's a density of almost 14,200 tourists per square kilometer. That is an intensity that doesn't just make a place feel crowded, it fundamentally changes its character. And this, right here, really captures the dilemma for the people who live there. On the one hand, a big majority, over 70%, agree that tourism is good for the city financially. But at the very same time, over 60% are saying, we've hit our limit, we can't handle any more. It's a total paradox. We need it, but it's overwhelming us. And this official city map shows that feeling isn't just an opinion. It's backed by data. Tourism is incredibly concentrated. You can see these 15 high-traffic areas marked out, and right in the dead center of it all is Passeig de Gràcia. That creates enormous pressure on everything from sidewalks to public services. Economists actually have a name for what this street has become: a superior circuit. That's a fancy way of saying it's an area that's been transformed by global money. The small, local shops get replaced by huge luxury brands that cater almost entirely to tourists. So in a weird way, the same genius that makes Casa Batlló so unique has also helped turn its neighborhood into a global shopping mall. So knowing all of this, the art, the history, the rivalry, the modern pressures, how can we visit this masterpiece in a way that's maybe a little more thoughtful? Okay, so here are a few practical tips. You've got the standard info, of course, hours, metro lines, but here's the real advice for making your visit better for everyone. Book your tickets online. It really helps the staff manage the crowds. And maybe most importantly, after you visit, make a point to wander away from the main drag. Explore the wider example district and spend your money at a local cafe or a small shop. So why does all this matter? Because seeing Casa Batlló as more than just a pretty building makes the experience 1,000 times better. It's a reminder that where we choose to go and what we choose to do has a real impact. And just like that dialogue between Gaudí and Kuma, tourism itself should be a respectful conversation between travelers and the places they visit. And that brings us to our final question, something to think about not just in Barcelona, but everywhere we travel. How do we make sure we're engaging with a place with real curiosity instead of just consuming it like a product? Because that really is the difference between seeing a beautiful city and truly understanding what makes it a home.